The company Christmas party was in full swing. "Well, everyone seems to be having a good time," said the strange man. "I guess they are," I replied. He must have sensed my hesitation. "Perhaps you are a little constrained." "Perhaps." I agreed with him. "Excuse me," he said. "I should introduce myself. I'm Thomas Townsend, CEO." We shook hands. "I'm Mitch Lawrence." I replied. "I don't work here. Gail Lawrence is my wife." "Ah, that's why I didn't recognize you. I know all my supervisors. Gail's a little arrogant. I think she's the one dancing with Chris Wainwright, the general account manager." Now he was showing off. I almost expected him to inform me of the Wainwright children's birthdays or who my wife's favorite movie star was. "Yes, Gail calls it circulation and pretends it's a chore. But what she really likes to do is dance, and I'm not very good at it. I used to be a good dancer, but since my divorce, it doesn't bother me much." "Oh, I didn't know what else to say." "It's gone now, like water under a bridge, but divorce is the reason my staff is, shall we say, well-behaved. A few years ago, my then-wife worked for another large company. I caught her having an affair with her boss. Now my people know that I am against inappropriate behavior. Any association with married employees that goes astray, and I fire them." "Totally agree," I replied. "While I'm not a monster, some will get too drunk and there will be the usual holiday flirting, but I'm a firm believer that people can have fun and let their hair down without breaking their marriage vows. But of course it happens sometimes. Invariably, it's a male manager demonstrating his supposed authority over a woman in his department. But the violators soon realize where the true power lies. Calling the shots at work. No one likes being woken up at 5:13 a.m. I was asleep with my cell phone under my pillow and looked at it in confusion. The alarm clock was set for 7:20. How could I have made such a mistake? Then the vague remnants of sleep receded. It was a call. "Hello?" I said quietly. "Mitch?" "Speaking." "Sorry, buddy, you've got to get to work as soon as you can. The system's down." "But it's supposed to be a call to Cliff." "He's not answering. You're next on the list." "Lazy bastard." "I know. I'll make sure he replaces you on your next tour of duty." I climb out of bed. Luckily, Gail wasn't awake yet. I rushed downstairs and put the kettle on. Then I came back, splashed cold water on my face, brushed my hair with my fingers, and pulled on some clothes. There was no time for a shower. 10 minutes later, I was out the door carrying a thermos of instant black coffee and a granola bar. Gail's car was blocking the exit. She usually left before me in the mornings, so blocking me in our short driveway wasn't a problem for her. I had the opportunity to back up a bit and go around her, but she freaks out when she sees tire tracks on the lawn, so I went back, took her keys off the hook, and drove her Land Rover Defender into the driveway, then drove my BMW out. When I went back to move her car, I noticed something inside. I could have opened that door 1,000 times and never noticed anything, but now I saw it. The elastic pocket behind the driver's seat had a slight bulge. Maybe I was subconsciously expecting something like this. I follow American soccer on English television and had lost my 49 ER's baseball cap. I opened the back door, hoping to find it, but instead I discovered a pair of used black panties. I didn't want Gail to know I had discovered them. So I reversed her car in reverse in an arc through the grass and backed into the driveway as close to the house as I could get. Then rolled her car forward to the original position closest to the road. Her panties remained in their hiding place. I checked her tires for grass clippings, and they were clean. But then I noticed something else on the tread, a crushed bell. I ripped it off and put it in my pocket. There are no bells on our lawn. Once her keys were back in the house, I closed our front door and surveyed the scene. It looked like I was back on the lawn. Later that day, a couple hours at work and the system was up and running. Brownie points for me, a black mark and extra duties for Lazy Cliff. I took a long lunch and found a quiet spot to mull over my options. First, I needed more proof that Gail was having sex in the back seat of her car. Frankly, I couldn't think of any other reason why she might have taken her panties off there, but it was better to be sure. So far, the only clue was her Land Rover Defender, so it might be a good idea to copy her keys. Then I could access it whenever I wanted. She must have known her CEO's politics, so she was unlikely to sleep with a coworker. But who knows what else might be hidden in the car. I pulled a bell from my pocket and it jogged a memory in me. I'd picked a bunch for my mom when I was a kid, but by the time I biked home, they were almost withered. I don't think it's allowed to pick them these days. I read somewhere that Britain grows half the bellflowers in the world, and many of them are nearby in the Loxley Woods. They're not far from us, and the flowers will be in bloom until the end of May. I wonder if that's where Gail's bellflower came from. Isn't that where she had her date? It's quite a long walk to get there, but the bell was in the tire. Her job sometimes requires her to visit construction sites. It's not really any more off-road than the woods, but it can still be rough terrain there, too. I left early and stopped by Loxley's on the way home. It's a beautiful place. There was a romantic little clearing down to the creek. Gail and I had made love here several times, back in the days of strict parents and no available beds. Once we did it right in the middle of the flowers. It was one of our quickest sessions. It was damn cold that April. I smiled, remembering the bell crushed in the hollow between her buttocks. Had she really brought her lover here to relive those days? I looked at the blue carpet and thought I could make out tire tracks, but it might as well have been my imagination. Back home, the first thing I did was check the laundry basket. Gail's panties were now there, next to her tone-on-tone black bra, and no male stains. Did you drive across the lawn again? Sorry, baby, I got paged. Didn't mean to wake you up. I thought so. Saturday. I drove her into town on Saturday lunchtime. We drove my car so I could sneak her keys. She met a friend for lunch. They were planning to catch an afternoon performance of Riverdance. It was in the last 2 weeks of its show in our town, and she had long since stopped asking if I wanted to go with her, so she'd ordered a couple tickets from Trudy. Then they'd have dinner and take a cab home. I stood in the key shop and took the Defender keys out of the keychain. I studied the rest of them, and there was one I didn't recognize. Can you make a copy of one of these? I asked, holding out the smallest one. No problem, the guy said. It looks like a desk drawer key. It is. I confirmed and thought, thanks for the tip. Monday. Monday morning I called Gail at work. I'd like to have lunch, I suggested. Are you free? Sure, I have a meeting until 12:15, she replied. How about you come up here and eat in our dining room? The food is quite good. Perfect. I arrived just before 12 and said hello to her secretary. Hi, Jane. Oh, hi, Mitch. You're a little early. Gail's still in a meeting. Is it okay if I wait in her office? I'll just get bored watching you file your nails and play with your phone. Cheeky bastard, get out of here. The desk had 3 drawers on each side of the lap hole. The entire left side was locked. But when I turned the key, there was a faint clanking of a metal bar. In the bottom, deepest drawer was a stack of folders marked Confidential. I didn't touch them. The middle one had a folding umbrella and sanitary towels, presumably for emergencies, but the top drawer was a veritable gold mine. There lay packages of condoms, one of which had been opened. On the one hand, they showed she was taking precautions. That might be some consolation to the injured party, which is me. On the other hand, they also show premeditation, which is no consolation at all. There was a cell phone and a credit card lying next to them, neither of which I recognized. Her regular cell phone has a Hello Kitty sticker on the back. I hate that animal, and Gail has one just to piss me off. This one had a Barclay card. Our regular cards are MasterCard. We don't even work at Barclays. I took a quick picture of the open box, and after playing with it for 10 minutes or so, examined the disposable phone. There were only 3 contacts there, under the names B, D, and H. B was Barclays Bank, where she seemed to have an online account I knew nothing about. It showed a payment to the Hillside Hotel in Leicester. Then it would have been ND turned out to be Don. Now I had a name. I rang the hotel and asked them to confirm the dates and names on the booking with the Barclay card number I had read out. It must be Mr. and Mrs. D. Lawrence next Thursday the 18th for one night. Is that correct, sir? Absolutely correct. I just had to check. Before putting the phone away, I checked under the photos icon. There were 3 short movies there. One depicted the very spot where Gail and I had made love years ago. She was completely naked and lying on her back in the flowers. Either Don had taken them off her secret cell phone or, more likely, taken them off his own and sent them to her. I quickly forwarded them to my phone, put everything back where it belonged, and locked the drawers again. 15 minutes later, we were eating dinner in Gail's dining room. "Does your company still have that old-fashioned executive desk?" I asked her. "Looks like it, doesn't it?" she replied. "But it's unofficial. Anyone can sit anywhere, but human nature compels us to sit with our friends. Most lower ranks wouldn't want their managers sitting at the same table with them. Then they wouldn't be able to complain about them." "So, who else is sitting at our table?" "There are a couple other managers, and Sally, my team leader. Jane is there with the other secretaries, but sometimes she sits with me. It's more informal than it looks." I caught myself looking around and wondering if Don was around. Her co-worker? Or maybe he was one of the directors at the big table. I certainly recognized Thomas Townsend and a few others from the Christmas party, but I didn't know any other names. "Any trips planned in the near future?" "Funny you should ask. Next Thursday, I have to go and visit the site of a new office building in Leicester. They've had a big scare. Ever heard of concrete cancer?" "Vaguely. Well, the foreman's called in an expert. I have to witness his tests and sign the corrected paperwork. I won't understand everything he does, but the responsibility for the end result falls on him. They only need my signature because I was the one who turned down the original work." "That sounds exciting," said I. "Not at all. It's about as exciting as watching concrete being mixed. Most of the time, I'll have nothing to do. But they don't finish until mid-morning Friday. Then I'll drive straight home and be back by lunchtime." Back at work, I called Mr. Townsend. Of course, I got in touch with his assistant. "Could I make an appointment to see Mr. Townsend, please?" "Soon, I don't care when or where." "How do I tell him who wants to see him?" "Tell him it's Mitch Lawrence, and I want to discuss what he and I talked about at your Christmas party." "Of course, could you leave me your phone number, please? I'll call you back." He called me an hour later. I shared my suspicions with him. "I'll get right to the point," Mr. Lawrence said. "Do you have proof of what you and I discussed?" "Yes, of course." "Then I suggest that we discuss the subject no further over the telephone. Tell me where you'd like to meet tonight, and I'll be there." "The Farrier Restaurant, 6:30. "Great." "And could you consult with your Human Resources Department before we meet? Get the names of all the employees who have recently booked Thursday the 18th and/or Friday the 19th as a weekend." "Will do." "The Farrier Restaurant." "What will you have to drink?" he asked. "I'll have a pint of Tasty Jack dry cider, please, Thomas," I replied. "Ah, real cider, it's to my heart's content. I'll have the same, but call me Tom." We sat. The pub was quiet on an early Monday evening. "I know there's that expression, 'You start and I'll carry on.' And who's going to start first?" he asked. "You can start, you Tom. I think I need to say more." He smiled. "You're right. I don't have much more to say. I guessed why you asked about those dates because that's when Gail will be in Leicester on business. There are only 2 employees on vacation after the 18th and 19th. One is the marketing director, and I know for a fact that he is going on vacation to Hawaii. The other is Don Venables, who is new to Gail's department. I have a picture of him, if that helps." He handed me a standard head and shoulders shot. "Thanks. I discovered that Gail has an extra phone. It has a picture of Don on it, though I doubt we'll recognize him from these pictures." I showed him 2 movies of him having my wife. There seemed to be no need to show her prostrate among the bells. He frowned. "I was surprised. She booked her own room at the Leicester Hotel." "Oh, we don't use company credit cards, although I can see now that it's a loophole that makes it easier to do careless things." I showed him a picture of Gail's desk drawer. "Her desk, I presume?" "Yes. Do you know how old this Don is?" "According to our file, he's 19. Do you intend to divorce her?" "Yes, I will. But I'll be forced to pay alimony if she loses her job. I need your help." "I'll do what I can." Thursday. At 8 o'clock that morning, I sat in Thomas's large office. "Did she leave on time?" he asked. "Yes, she left early for the airport." I had planned to disable her car and drive her myself, but that would have complicated things too much. After all, I didn't need copies of her car keys, although a trip to the key-cutting shop had paid off. Okay, did you manage to do the diversion? Yes, I found a spare cell phone in her travel bag while she was in the shower. I didn't want her to notice anything amiss in case she needed a last-minute check, so I removed the battery. Then I did the same thing with her regular phone. Excellent, he said. From East Midlands Airport, she would take a cab straight to Leicester. Not having a working cell phone may cause concern if she does find out about it, but it shouldn't affect her ability to do her job. Good, Thomas said. For my part, I've instructed the foreman at the construction site to introduce her to the major players and then send her to the hotel for lunch. Her main tasks begin this afternoon. The hotel management has agreed to let her into her room as soon as she gets there. They will give her a message to call your cell phone at exactly 1 o'clock. They will give her your number in case she forgets it. I suggest you turn off your cell phone until then. Good move. My number would be saved in her contacts, which she wouldn't be able to access. I've also had time to slip a couple private messages into her bag. Oh, that's interesting. Tell me about it. Sure, I replied. There's nothing personal in them. I put away all her underwear, though she'll have to find another partner when Dawn doesn't show up. And I left half a dozen printed frames from those movies I showed you. She'll get the message. And I didn't deem it necessary to mention that each picture also showed a pressed bell. So, barring socializing with young Venables, we're all set. He'll be here shortly. You wanted to see me, sir? Yes, Don. Have a seat, said the CEO. I'm sorry to interfere with your vacation, but I needed you specifically. Did you have anything planned? In fact, as we speak, I'm late for my train, sir, but I can catch something later. That's right. So this gentleman here is Mitch Lawrence. Don nodded at me and the color peeled off his face. And you can assume that anything he tells you to do has my blessing. Refuse, and you'll be immediately dismissed without recommendation. He gulped. You're coming with me to my house, I said, where I've delivered a dozen large flat boxes for moving. You're going to help me pack my wife's things in them and tape them up. I have your porn pictures, and you will place one on the top item inside each box before it is sealed. The removal guys are coming at 11:30 to take it all to storage. Then, I'll take you back here. If you keep quiet, Mr. Townsend might let you keep your job. Okay, I'm sorry. That's one thing I agree with you on, I said. Now from now on, shut up. I intended to put a crushed bell on top of each picture, but I didn't need to share that with any of them. If Mr. Lawrence is satisfied, Tom said, you'll start again with a 3-month probationary period. Mrs. Lawrence will no longer be your boss. He nodded. At noon, I had lunch again in the staff dining room, this time at the management table. I caught surprised looks from several people who knew me, but who cared. Back in Tom's office, I turned on my phone at 2:01. There had been 2 missed calls recently, presumably from her hotel room. It rang again. I'm guessing what this is about, she began. So you've already unpacked? Yes. Well, I've packed all your things from home and they're in storage. They're waiting for your instructions as to where to send them. You idiot, you're going to get crushed in the divorce. I don't think so, Gail. You can come and check out whatever you have left tomorrow, but then leave. Wait till I put my buddy Tom on the phone. You're on speakerphone. What? Mrs. Lawrence, Mr. Townsend says, I borrowed your husband's cell phone. Do you understand me? Yes, Mr. Townsend. Good. I have seen photographic evidence of your adultery, and that is more than I need to fire you. However, your husband has asked me to make you an alternative offer. Tomorrow you return from your trip to Leicester and clean out your desk. On Monday morning, you will report to our branch in Aberdeen. I suggest you travel there by train on Sunday. We will reimburse you for 1 week's hotel accommodation. After that, you are left to yourselves. Do you understand? Yes, Mr. Townsend. I fully realize that it is unusual to hear divorce terms from your CEO, but here they are. No maintenance payments and 1/3 of the value of the family home. Mr. Lawrence has promised to put it up for sale as soon as possible. Agree to that, and you can keep your job at the same pay level. Disagree, and you will be dismissed without reference. Decide now. A short pause. I agree. On the way home, I stopped by Loxley Woods, but I didn't snap any bells.